Hello, and welcome to this week's look at action and stunts on film and television. We are very honoured this week, I think, to be joined by a man, a stunt man who is renowned for really delivering on the type of work that he does. He's been used by endless stunt coordinators the world over and started his career, as he will explain to us, from a circus background. And he has a very familiar face, and it was great managing to have some time with him, have a little chat, and discuss his incredible career to date. And I dare say that he will be back again on a number of occasions to go through bits and pieces of his work and maybe looking at other work as well from a professional's perspective. But I'd like you to enjoy this. It's a fun time, and it is the wonderful Richie Gaona. What we had over here in Britain, I don't know whether this works in the States, maybe we can talk about this, but certainly as far as the British concerned, there was always those individuals on the register. You've heard me mention the register, the stunt register, the British thing, and they are dedicated by a union. Right, so the originally was equity, which was the actors' union. In order to be a stuntman, similar in the States, you had to earn your SAG card. Over here, you had to earn your equity card firstly, and then what's happened is that there was a designated member of men and women, and they were the people that all the productions went to. Now, over in the States, that was very different because they would bring people in, or somebody would be mentored by an individual and brought onto a set, possibly, or being taught by an individual. And then on certain occasions, when certain types of action was required, they would bring in specialists, i.e., and I use you as an example here, trapeze, circus, something that we may not have experience in. There are one or two members on the register who started life in the circus. But if there is a sequence or a picture or a television series that is dedicated to inside the big top, the big circus tent, or something of that nature, they need specialists. What's fascinating is that you've done both ends of that. Originally from
I
a
feel like I had
family of
two
that.
careers almost, It feels
Yeah.
like two different careers. Circus has been in my life for, generations and stuff like that. And it's something I grew up around. My brothers were older than me and they were already doing it.
Mhm.
So, watching them, it's like, hey, I want to be a trapeze artist, of course, and I don't know, in some of the videos you've seen, I started performing around 5 or 6, 7, 8 years old already, performing TV specials and stuff like that. So anytime they would do a TV special, I would take off from school for the couple days, go do this TV special, and come back. So it was like that throughout my school years. And this, of course, the summer came along, then I was just spend my whole time with them.
Sure.
But at the same time, as I got older, I don't know if you know Bob Yerkes, the stuntman.
Bob
He's been
Yerkes, absolutely Bob Yerkes, yeah.
so Bobby came from a lot of circus background also, and
Right.
he used to travel with my family.
Oh,
And
okay.
so we knew Bobby very, very well. And anytime we were with the circus was in LA, he would of course come and visit us or
Right.
wherever we were. And if he was in the same town, he would visit. And he would tell me all his stories about the stunts and stuff like that. So I got started being, a little curious about that. And I go, that's something I really would like to do. But do I have time to do it if I still want to do trapeze?
Mhm.
So I was being torn in two different directions. So after high school, of course, I said, I'm going to go and be with the family and tour the world
Mhm.
with the trapeze. And I did that for about, like steady for about 12 years with them.
Right.
And I was thinking again, and I would keep in touch with Bobby a little bit. And he was like, yeah, anytime you want to come out, I'll help you in any way I can. That's the way Bobby is. He helps
Mhm.
everybody. So after a while, I was like, okay, I'm getting a little old. And am I going to be too old to get into the stunt business later? You know what I mean? So I kind of just went, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to go for it. If Bobby's there to help me, he'll help me. And along the way, I've met quite a few stunt people. Joe Kramer. Bobby brought actually, remember the movie Remo Williams?
I do, absolutely, yeah.
Well, they were filming in New York. We were performing with the Big Apple Circus in New York City.
Right.
And Bobby had brought Gene LaBelle, Frank Ferrara, Joe Kramer,
Pat
all to
Romano,
see the
all those
circus.
guys, yeah.
Yeah, and I met them there at the circus, and they were talking, and and he goes, "Hey, you'll be a good stuntman," and stuff like that. And I go, "Well, that's kind of what I want to do." And of course, Joel Kramer, "Hey, if you're ever in Hollywood, let me know. Look us up." And I stuck with that. So as soon as I got there, Bobby helped me. I started doing some working out with Bobby and different things like
Mhm.
that. And you got to try to meet everybody. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
That's how it
yeah.
works. That's. So the
I think
next thing.
the first time I think I ever saw Bob Yerkes was in Commando. Ironically, again with Joel
The
Kramer as
big swing.
coordinator. The big swing from just
Yeah,
fantastic. The timing on that was
the
amazing.
and I've talked to Bobby about that. He goes, "Yeah, I
Wow.
feel like I almost missed it a couple times."
Yeah, he had to let
So,
go and drop down quite a bit, but
time that elevator going down.
wow, yeah.
So, that's how I went for it. I just said, "I'm gonna go for it," and I know I'm a little older than I wish I you always say this, I wish I would have started younger,
Mm.
you know, but I did what I did, and I've had the greatest time doing what I'm doing. So,
It's a remarkable transition. But let's go back and look at the Gaonas as we know them here. Maybe not as familiar here as in the States, but certainly they were the go-to family when it was in consideration of the biggest trapeze family in the world at one time. I mean, and
well,
performing everywhere.
at the time, yeah, they were, with Ringling Brothers for almost 18 years, and
Mm.
that's a big deal to be with that show with that long. They started in 65 through, I think it was 80, and then from there we started to go in different parts of the world. We went to Australia, we went to Europe. My family was actually in Blackpool before Ringling Brothers.
Oh, really?
The Tower, they
The
did the
tab,
show.
absolutely, Blackpool
Yeah,
Tower. Yeah.
yeah, they did the show there before Ringling Brothers back in the early 60s.
Wow.
And so, they've been and dragging me around the whole world with the trapeze, and which is you can't, some people goes, "Oh, do you regret traveling?" I go, "No, it was the best thing possible,
Of course you
to
do.
see,
Yeah, those
see the
those
whole
great
world."
stories of people saying, "Hey,
Yeah.
I'm just going to go and join a circus and see the world." And you've had this experience. What I'm interested in, obviously, the fact that
Mhm.
your entire family is circus based and trapeze based, but
Mhm.
there was never a doubt, as far as you were concerned, or even as your parents were concerned, that you were going to do anything else. For you, it was always going to be circus. Or did you have a passion to suddenly become a chartered accountant somewhere?
Well, no, I thought I was gonna be like a professional surfer actually at one point.
Okay, right,
But, because my brothers had, really started very young into it, and there's a 10-year gap, and my mom was and I got 2 younger brothers.
right.
So there's 4 of them, and then there's 3 younger ones.
Mhm.
And at the time, my mom was like, "Put her foot down. These 3 are gonna go to school." So, we're based out of Florida,
Right.
and so my 2 brothers and I pretty much did a normal life of, the whole school system.
Uh-huh.
I didn't go to college because I went straight to the circus, but my other brothers went to college and stuff like that. But at the same time, when the circus wasn't around or they weren't around, I would surf every day. So I was like, okay, I might be a surfer. But then later, you watch your family and you go, you know what? This is what I want to do. Continue the tradition of the flying trapeze. So after I think last year in high school is when I really got serious about doing the trapeze. I said,
Okay.
"This is what I'm going to go for," and that's how it started from there for me.
The amount of television specials and the amount of shows that you guys were involved in, you had a huge amount of media attention surrounding you, even before you got to the stage where you made that transition
Yeah.
from circus performer to actor stunt performer. Um,
Mhm.
was that a good grounding, do you think, for the type of career that you later had?
I think it really did help a lot, being around cameras and stuff like that, and the TV special thing, how they shoot this stuff. I think, and I love that stuff. I like the
Mm.
being around the behind the scenes kind of thing. I love photography, so all of that stuff. Um, I would try to sit there and watch how all this stuff works. And I think it does help a little bit like that, being around that thing.
So, and also you have to be very good in tights, I imagine, which is not something you can get away with on a regular basis. You see the people standing there and they're all in the right proportion, and you go, "Can I get away with that? I'm not sure I can get away with that.
I
Maybe
don't think I can get
lion
away with that
taming. That's
anymore now. Even though they stretch a lot, we grow as we get older,
You presumably explain this to all of the people who are involved in the trapeze school and all of this sort of stuff. Going, now, Liz,
Exactly.
you have a head for height, super. You have a kinesthetic sense, lovely. But you have
Yeah,
to look good in the outfit. That's also something to play about with.
that's
Um,
true.
so you did discuss earlier, just briefly, that you were performing in New York when Joel Kramer was there with Remo, Unarmed and Dangerous, and they said, "Hey, if you're in town, come see us." How did the transition happen? How did that moment happen when you were given the opportunity, or you approached somebody on the basis of that? Talk us through that.
Well, like I told my family, I said, this is something I want to do, and I'm going to go to California, and they were all very supportive about the idea. And I flew back. We were actually in Colombia, in Bogota, Colombia, performing.
Right.
I flew back. We had an RV trailer at the time for traveling with the circus. And my ex-wife and my son, who was only, I think, 1 years old, 2 years old, we packed everything up and said, we're going to go to California. And I called Bobby and I said, Bobby, I'm coming to California, pretty much. Okay. And I say, and I go, look, I have an RV. I don't know where to go. He goes, no, just park in the backyard. He had a huge backyard. He goes, so I arrived at pretty late in the evening. Took us 3 days to get there. I drove straight through, and Bobby, hey, back it up. Stayed at Bobby's for 6 months and learning everything,
Right.
the do's and don'ts. I got into doing extra work like everybody else.
Hmm.
And he kept saying, I'm trying to get you a sidecar. If something comes up, we'll work it out. And after I got there in January 1st, I got there. And by April, a friend of mine knew I was there, who used to be in the Ringling Brothers Circus also, but he became like an agent for commercials.
Okay.
And he found out I was there. And Bobby had said, I think there's something coming up where I can use you as a trapeze artist. And we're going to film in the backyard. It was a little film called Purple People Eater with Neil Patrick Harris and Ned
Right.
Beatty. And there's a whole trapeze section, and right there in his backyard. So we didn't have to go far. But at the same time, I booked this Panasonic commercial, walking a high wire.
Okay.
And that's what got my side card.
Right.
And it ran, for 2 years. And that gave me it opened the door for me. So nobody needed to say, well, you need to get your side card, if you want to work with us, kind of thing, I got my side card. So
Again, that's very similar to the stories from the old days, if I may use that phrase, when
yeah,
people like Terry Leonard, for instance, did exactly the same thing with Chuck Roberson,
yeah.
and became friendly with him. Roberson, of course, he was John Wayne's double at the time,
Oh,
and
wow.
said, well, come and stay in my place,
Mhm.
you know,
Exactly.
and that's how he started getting work. So similarly, you going to and Bob Yerke's going, well, yeah, just back it up. Stay here. 6 months later, you're still there.
Yeah, and then that gave me the commercial brought in some nice cash, so we were able to get an apartment. I sold the RV and started a new life in California. And as one thing does, you meet one person, they recommend you to another person, kind of thing.
Right.
At the same time, Bobby had called me in. He goes, you know what? There's a movie they're filming from
Uh,
Blind Fury.
oh yeah, 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 yeah.
So he goes, he wanted you to double him for some of the tumbling and flipping and
Right.
swinging on the little bar. And I said, okay. So I went to his house and met with him, and we looked at each other, and he explained what he wanted to do. He said, I'm going to do all the sword work, but I want you to do the flipping and all that.
Okay.
Perfect. So we'd spent 3 days on the set. Bobby did some of the rigging, and I was doubling him. And so we did Blind Fury. The best part of it was that Max Clevin was the second unit director on that.
Right. Yeah.
And Max, we hit it off. He was really nice with me, and really like one of my first or second films, I think it was.
I say he got the
And
Batman thing by that time, hadn't he?
he hadn't done Batman yet.
Just about to, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, just about. But he goes, I want you to go to see Walter Scott. He's working on Paradox.
Right.
Paradox. Okay. Tell him I sent you. I like the way you work. They're doing some tests, and it's at Universal Studios. So at the time, you can pretty much just walk in the studios. You didn't have to get checked in or whatever. So I went to see Max, and it was Back to the Future Part Two that they
Right.
were working on. And I'm looking around. It was at the set where they're doing the Under the Sea dance. And I said, "Excuse me, Walter. I'm Richie Gaona. Max Clevin just sent me over here to meet with you. He said that you might be doing some tests, some aerial stuff." And he goes, "Oh, Max sent you, huh?" I go, "Yeah." So I left him my photo. He goes, "Yeah, I may be able to use you. I'll call you in about a week." And he calls me. I said, "Oh my God, okay." So they wanted to figure out how they were going to do all the hoverboard stuff.
Right.
So they went to Max Clevin's house with two cranes,
Hmm.
and he has a huge spread out there. And what they would do, they would film for a couple days and do some tests, see if it looks good, and send it to the director. And he go, "No, I don't like the way they're hanging, or this, and that.
Hmm.
So we'll come back and do some more tests until we got how it looks like the hoverboard we're actually flying."
Yeah.
And then after about 3 or 4 weeks of doing some tests with that, doing the big crash out there with the airbags and some mock-ups, they brought in the actors, the three actors that we were supposed to double, and we
Yes.
matched up pretty good.
Yeah, there's a
And he
couple of
goes,
great photographs of you
"Yeah,
with your characters. Yeah, it's very good.
exactly." So they said, "Oh, looks like you guys got the job. We're going to start filming in about 2 weeks." And that's how I really broke into the big feature of Back to the Future Part
Because
Two.
that was at the time, and I remember seeing some behind the scenes footage. Maybe some of the footage that you're referring to that was shot has now gone out as B-roll, and many years later, and has
Right.
turned up. But even then, even though it looked as though, all right, you can see the idea, but the way in which the camera angles were used, it looked unbelievable from that. It was such a clever way of doing it.
Yeah.
Now you know that obviously there's a rig above it, and you're having to with
Right.
the balancing, with the wires and all the other bits and pieces, to try and, as you
Mhm.
say, get the realistic movement of that. But at the time,
Exactly.
that was something that nobody had ever seen before. It was very,
There
very
was
clever.
no
Long,
green
long
screen.
before really
Yeah.
clever CGI as well.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say there was no green screen. It was
No, no.
practical, you know. And what took so long to do that chasing, which is maybe 2 minutes long,
Yeah.
is the positions of the cranes. They have to move the cranes around the set, all the way around the set, and that's
Yes, of
what took so
course.
long.
Yeah.
So you could only get so much of the flying because then you start arcing up too much because it
That's
is
right.
swinging, and the guys in the cranes would try to drop you, make you look like you're going straight
Right.
before you start arcing up, you know. So that's what took so long to do that chasing. I think, I don't know, we were off and on, we were there about 10 weeks, I think, or more.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, just for that sequence. Sometimes they shoot some other stuff with Michael J. Fox and then come back, but they really concentrated on that chase scene. They did have a professional skater too at the time.
Right. Okay.
So he did a little bit of that when they did some of the skating stuff too. But
Mhm.
Charlie was doing most of the stuff for Michael. Yeah.
And it certainly wasn't incident free, was it? I mean, there was a number of there was a tricky situation there, which didn't go terribly well. I must admit, if memory serves, because there's a lot of stuff regarding that, and you were involved in that in some shape or
Well,
form as
you're
well.
talking about the with Cheryl,
Was
right?
Cheryl? Yeah.
Yeah, that was. I mean, we had just done the day before. Well, we did the mock up at Max's house,
Okay.
doing, but over at Max's house, we had two above and two below at the time.
Right.
But we did the rehearsal without all the glass
Okay.
on a Saturday, I think it was. We did the three of us on top and Biff double on the bottom.
Yes. Yes.
And that's, yeah, somehow we did the rehearsal was fine. We swung in and swung out because they swung us in, like, and that's where they would cut the cable.
Okay.
But that was fine. Everybody was kind of happy with it and everything. Then we came back a couple of days later to do the stunt itself. And yeah, Cheryl got hurt on that one,
Yeah.
and she hit the column. We got off centered. She hit the column. Gary Morgan was the other character that was up there with me.
Okay.
And we both made it inside, but I knew something was wrong as we were approaching it because here comes the trapeze experience. I know that feeling of approaching my platform to get up on the platform
Right.
at the end of the flying trick. And I felt something like really slow down. I go, I'm not going to make it up through the glass.
Right.
And then 1 second later, I felt like a push, and we went in. but that must have been Cheryl hitting the thing and swinging
And
us in.
swinging, right. Yeah.
So it whipped us in, actually. Gary and I were fine. And the Biff character was on the lower on the ground, went through the double doors. He was okay, but Cheryl got hurt pretty
Yeah,
bad on that.
she was dropped from some height there, wasn't she?
Yeah, it was about, I think, about 25 feet almost or so.
It's crazy. I mean, and also as again from a practical side of point to an early stage CGI thing, but mostly again practical. Hook was another wonderful example of
Yeah,
just ideally your element, swinging from one side to the other and all this sort of
right.
terrific stuff. And that must have been some production to work on as well. That's the second.
It was a beautiful production. It was
Yeah.
huge. And they had over 100 stunt guys. The best part of that was my son had just started doing films, and he got picked as one of the Lost Boys at age 6.
Oh, nice.
So Alex was also working on the set, and I was working on a set. So when I wasn't working, I was the parent, you know what I mean? And when, I was working, his grandmom would come in as the parent. But Alex became a stuntman from there on. He did a
Right.
lot of movies doubling little kids, the Flintstones, the Rascals, the Freddy Krueger movie. He did a high fall for that at the age of 10, I think.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, he has a nice career. He got up all the way up to doing the TV show The Mentalist. He was
Oh,
on
yeah.
that with Joe Kramer for about 2 years on that
Right.
show, doubling one of the leads on that. And yeah, but Hook was one of those to go, wow, this is a huge set. You know what I mean? When, like, kind of like old Hollywood, where they made all these big sets and everything.
Exactly.
And
Yeah, precisely.
and that's the part that you go and you walk in there. I mean, to be honest with you, I think Neverland and the Pirates section look almost more impressive in real life than it did on film almost,
Oh,
you know what I
right. Yeah.
mean? But it still looks great, and it was, again, you start working like in Back to the Future. I worked with all these stunt people that would recommend you on the next film.
Yes, of course.
And that's how I kind of, okay, it's the ball's rolling and I'm meeting more people and they're recommending me to other people, and that's how my career kind of took off on that part of it.
It's always the same. I guess with all performers from anywhere, it doesn't matter where on the planet you're working. Um, Everybody says always, there's a very large percentage of luck. You go, yeah, that's true, but you have to have ability. And very
Yeah.
clearly from your background and from the type of work that you've done before, these wire gags and these type of things that were now starting to come through
Yeah.
were made you obviously first phone call for a bunch of these things,
Yeah, that was one of the reasons Charlie Caldwell, he started directing or doing a lot of second unit directing or
Yeah.
coordinating after Back to the Future. He brought me in for another movie, a TV movie, where we're doing a whole fight scene on a roller coaster, a practical roller
Oh,
coaster.
yes, I saw that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and he knows I'm really good with heights and all that kind of stuff. So he felt comfortable bringing me in to double this one guy while we do the fall off on a cable, So those things helped me a lot.
The fall on that, I'll show that clip in point of fact,
Mhm.
so people can see what we're talking about. But that the fall from the top seems like a very, I mean, it's obviously it's a wire gag, a decelerator or something of that
Yes,
nature,
yes.
right? But your body positioning seems very odd when you get to the very bottom of it. It's almost as though your
Yeah,
body has changed completely.
that's
Was
where
that
I think
restricting at all?
I think they should have cut it a little before that, maybe.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Because the funny thing is everything we were doing the rehearsals, and they were, testing it with the weights and stuff like that, but things were gotten wet and the rope
Oh, I
stretches at the
see.
time a
Right.
little bit,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and I go, after a few tests, it was getting too close to the airbag because we had an airbag set up.
That's right. Yeah.
I said, you know what? Let's change the rope out. Put a brand new dry rope in there and do a test. And it worked perfectly. I said, let's just keep that rope dry and put it someplace else. And then we'll do the test with me. And
Okay.
we did like 2 or 3 tests and it was fine. And yeah, but because your body puts in, you start off really well, but at a certain point, where it depends on where the pick point is, it starts dragging you down when it's
Exactly. Yeah.
down.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, there was a cameraman, and one of the clips that somebody shot on my video camera was right underneath. And what the funny part is, they tell me afterwards, because you see in the video, both of them took off running and left the camera there because they thought that I
Just
was
keep
going to hit
coming.
them.
Yeah.
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 And you see on my video, you see the both guys. He goes, "We thought you're not going to stop."
Yeah, they bolted. Yeah, they weren't
They
hanging about, were
bolted.
they?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But that was a
Um,
fun film to work on.
yeah, it looks like it because you don't see. I'm trying to think of the last picture I saw that had something along the lines of Funfair, maybe even Beverly Hills Cop 3 or something like that, which was a fairground type thing I remember
Oh,
going on.
maybe. Yeah, yeah.
And so you don't see them very often. I mean, you had a fight inside the roller coaster as it's
Of a
going
roller
round, you know?
coaster.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and as it's going, I actually jumped down, and before I went up the big hill, we had to climb, like bounce from car to car.
Across the other guys on there. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and then we had stunt people in there, of course. And then we get to a certain car, and they would clip us in to go down the big hill. You know what I
Right.
mean? But we were going down on our stomachs, on laying on top of everybody, going down that big hill and doing the whole roller coaster thing.
Yeah, yeah.
The guy that I was chasing, who was trying to disarm a bomb, had his head down in the roller coaster, so he got so dizzy he kept throwing up.
How was
But
your
I could
day,
see
honey?
everything
Well,
going. Yeah, but he had to keep his head down so you couldn't see where he was going. That was the
probably
fun
for the
part.
best. I
Yeah,
imagine
yeah,
probably for the best. Um,
yeah.
we've, you know, I had mentioned it in the opening thing, but I'm going to say it now. Is that when you come on screen, I mentioned this earlier on to you, but that you have one of those faces that you look at it and you go, wow, I've seen this guy so many. There's so many people in the cinema which will go, it's him. Do you remember that thing we saw with it? It's him. No, it can't be. It is. I tell you what, he's going to go in a minute. And so there's all sorts of bits and pieces. There's a couple of really, really classic moments. Swordfish is a super example of you,
Well, yeah,
being. It's that guy. Look, and then you're having
it's even good.
having Vinnie Jones lecture you in some shape or form.
I know that was awesome. I mean, that's something that's been really kind of weird to me. I mean, even Desperado, when they, I was the case opener. I get to die 3 times in the Desperado, but for some reason I get picked sometimes for that guy. You know what I
Right.
mean? And I hate to say this, but I know every stunt guy should learn to be an actor also and do lines and stuff like that. I hate lines. I'd rather fall off the building and stay instead of doing lines. But every once in a while, they'll throw something in, say, give you a couple lines to do. And the same case with Desperado, when they picked us up, oh, you're the case opener. I'm going, I don't even know what the case opener was at the time. They take us to the production office. Oh, yeah, you're the case opener. I'm going, holy crap, what's going on? So anyway, I get the script right away and start looking, and they go, oh, case opener. I go, oh my God, I got like a part. So I'm looking, I go, oh, it's only a couple of lines. I should be okay.
It's
That
an
kind
important scene in the picture, because the case opens. He goes, "Well, it's okay," and then you turn around, and as you turn around, the case then lifts up again, and there's all the
of right.
ammo in there.
Yeah, exactly. It's him,
Yeah,
So I get teased about that a lot, those stupid little lines like that. But you know what? They're iconic. Sometimes they go, "Oh, you're that guy," and so yeah, that
that's
happens quite a bit.
That's what it is. You get into situations like that, and again later on, I remember seeing a thing, Hollywood Stunt Masters or Hollywood's Greatest
Mhm,
Stunts,
mhm.
and there was a whole behind the scenes thing about you on an air ram going off and disappearing onto a wall with an explosion behind you and all sorts of stuff.
Oh, you posted that on another video
That's
about it,
right. Yes, I did later
right?
on.
I
That's right.
saw that. Yeah,
Just amazing stuff, and that's the type of educational stuff you think that people don't know about. That's why
yeah.
we do this, is so that people can understand what this is.
And Robert Rodriguez does a whole thing on Desperado behind the scenes stuff
Mm.
on DVD. Like it's like 10 minutes long, pretty much how he filmed it,
Right.
and what he does with the stunt people, and they showed us practicing the air ramps, and stuff like that. Yeah, which is nice. That's the part I like to see is how things got done in a way.
Yeah.
You know what I
Well,
mean? And
that's
I
the
always
that's the
enjoy
entire
that.
purpose of this channel, to try and go, look, this is terrific, but this is how they did it, which makes it even more
Exactly.
exciting.
That's what
Not
I
just
like watching your stuff.
well, I'm thrilled with that. I really am. That's why the whole idea of you being involved in these pictures and being able to explain to us the details about what is going on and how you've done it, as again prior to CGI. Nowadays, well, we'll sort it in post. Don't worry. That
Right.
that
Right.
wasn't an option back then when you were doing it for
No, I
real.
mean, we were talking about Max Clevin, and later, after Back to the Future was all done and everything, maybe a few months later, he had the opportunity of directing second unit for a TV show called Wolf with Jack Scalea.
Right.
It ran, I think, one season or something like that, but it was the pilot. He goes, "Hey, I want to bring you up." And again, there you go. Max liked what I did. He brought me up for a character that he goes, it's a possible that you might be a recurring role because
Right.
you're the only one who gets away in this shootout.
Okay.
And it was a great shootout we did, in San Francisco. And he goes, "I want you to go through the window, land in the car, but you got to keep running."
Oh, that was terrific. Yeah, that
And
was
I'm
a
going, "Okay,
great
let me
landing.
figure
I
this
love that.
out." And it's like I never done that, but I've done all the flips through the air and land on things and stuff like that. So I felt comfortable with that. You know what I
You
mean?
you've seen people come out of windows at lower heights and just lie there like the whole building fell on them. But you've got to
Right.
roll off the whole thing and then keep motoring out of
And keep
shots. Yeah,
running.
yeah,
That's why the guy gets away. I think his character was Pepe or something. And
yeah.
Jack Scalea goes, "Pepe got away," and stuff. So and it never happened, which was great. It was fine, but I still got a nice piece out of it, the whole opening sequence of that TV show.
Well, it's amazing. It really is. And I just I wish we had more time to talk about all the. I could go through your
Yeah.
entire career. Maybe we can do a reoccurring thing and come back at another point. But
Oh,
I, wa-
anytime.
I would like you to tell us a little bit about flytrapeze.com and tell us about what's going on there and how you're now doing more or less what Bob Yerkes did with you, and following that
Exactly.
whole thing around and passing on to a new generation.
Right. Bob Jerky's helped me get into a show called Circus of the Stars. I trained the TV stars to do the show.
Hmm.
And from then on, once we were done, I did that for like 5 years. And then after that, I put the trapeze up in my backyard in California, and started a lot of stunt people started coming over, like at Bobby's, working out. But I started getting a lot of the actors to come over. They
Okay.
wanted to keep doing that. We've had Tom Cruise up there. We have a lot of people that came through there to do trapeze, which is I'm still kind of amazed the people that's been through there. But I've got the itch or the knack for teaching it
Right.
also, and I really love teaching it and passing it on. I'm not sure if you saw the documentary, but the documentary on the family is about how we got into the circus,
Yes.
what we did with the circus, and now how we're passing it on to a new generation.
Right.
And that's what I'm still doing right now. Like in a little while, I have to go to teach some classes. And these people really love learning, especially from a professional who's been in the business a long time. So last night we had a great class with these kids. They go from about maybe 8 years old to 16 years old, and they're doing fantastic.
Mm.
And it makes me feel so good to pass that knowledge on to these kids. And who knows? They may go into some of my students actually had gone and become professional circus performers. And they're loving it. And it's circus is not like what it used to be, but
No.
it's still there. We're still trying to hang on to that tradition at the same time.
It's absolutely essential that if you're in a position where you have experience in something, that you do pass that on to
Yeah.
that new generation coming through, whether it be family or whether indeed it's these new guys here.
It's the same thing with stunts. You want to pass that on, your knowledge to the younger generation, you know,
Precisely.
and, I wish some of the younger generation would know the history of where they're going, like the Bob Yerkes, the Terry Leonards, all those people. They should know who they are. And
We've
that's a little pet peeve of mine.
I think we've said for a long time that one of the absolute criteria for you becoming a stunt performer is that you have to have seen these movies and you have
Yes.
to have read these books and you have to know these individuals inside out, which will give you that history of
Yeah.
what it is you're doing. It's not just about getting that at the end of the day. There is
Oh,
so much more
no.
to it than that.
I watched
Um,
all that stuff, the Dar Robinson, all
oh,
that stuff. I used to watch all those specials, and that's kind of what got me started.
well, it's been an absolute thrill to talk to you, Richie. I
Well,
can't tell
thank
you how
you.
excited it's been over the last few days. We've been trying to get this together,
I know,
and we've
I
managed to
know.
miss each other on a number of occasions. But for now, Richie, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, and I can't wait to see it again.
So there we go. That's our chat with Richie from a little while back, and he's a gentleman. He's a scholar. And if you are in that neck of the woods and this is something that you think that you might want to do, or you have had a hankering to do something circus-based, trapeze-based, maybe get in touch with him. through the usual sources, and I dare say that he'll be able to put you in touch with either people in those particular skills or indeed get a go at trying for the trapeze. He is an extraordinary individual with a remarkable family, and they are going to go on from generation to generation to generation. I can sense it. That's it for this week. Thank you very much indeed for watching. Don't forget to check out the Pod Dojo Network, who are responsible for this podcast, and the YouTube channel. And we'll do it all again next week, shall we? Until then, it's bye for now.